Hey kids, welcome to HipHughes History. What's that? You can't hear me, you say. That's probably because you were engaged in gunplay and you weren't using a silencer, which means you're probably going to be pretty excited about this lecture, which is about a new piece of GOP legislation called the Hearing Protection Act, which is meant to deregulate the use of silencers in the United States of America. So I say to you, Internet, should the United States of America deregulate silencers? So how about a little bit of context, because that's pretty important. So we're going to start in 1934 with the passage of the National Firearms Act. And Congress passed this law really in the response to all the violence in the 1920s, like the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Now, this is after the repeal of Prohibition, but nevertheless it passes. And it's going to heavily regulate some guns like machine guns, but it's also going to regulate the silencer, because there was this fear that the silencer was going to be used in criminal activity. Now, the silencer was invented in 1902 by the son of the inventor of the Maxim gun. He also invented the muffler. Pretty smart guy, I guess. But I guess he was fascinated with sink drains and the way the water would swirl down and such. And he thought if a bullet did that, it would release gases that were produced by firing it. And if you could release those gases, you could make it a little bit quieter, if you know what I mean. Now, this is going to be perfected by a CIA black op, I kid you not, Mitch Wergel, better known as the Wizard of Whistling Death, who's going to end up selling that technology to the United States Army, where it was heavily deployed in Vietnam. Later, he kind of disappears into the underworld, selling his technology to dictators and mobsters, kind of backing up the reason why we might have the regulation. But this is the regulation, and it's never changed. It's a $200 tax, and it's a $200 tax today. Now, in dollars back then, that was about a $3,500 tax. You also have to have a background check, and you also have to fill out an application with the ATF. That's about a 9-month process. So it's kind of hard to get your hands on a silencer. And that's where it's legal in 42 states. It's not legal in 8 states. So if you live in New York, Massachusetts, Hawaii, California, Delaware, Illinois, New Jersey, Rhode Island, or Washington, D.C., you may not have a silencer. And if you have one in Connecticut and Vermont, you can't hunt with one. So that's basically the regulation. And now we come to current day. Now, the NRA has always opposed this because they believe it's a Second Amendment issue. You should be able to silence your gun if you want to. But they haven't had a lot of success with that. So now with the new Trump administration, they have a new lobbyist. And that lobbyist is the son of the president, Donald Trump Jr., who is an avid sportsman, and he likes to hunt things and he likes to use guns and such. And he has been one of the biggest lobbyers for this bill, which means it's probably going to go through Congress. But it would basically wipe out that regulation and there would be no more tax. So that's it. Now let's take a look at kind of the pros and the cons of each side, and then I'll be so excited to see you leaving comments down below. So the biggest argument in terms of why people support the regulation is that having this regulation is going to make it less likely that they're going to be used in mass shootings. If you're using a silencer in a mass shooting and it's, maybe affecting the response time by 5 or 10 seconds, that could literally mean, 10, 20, 30 more people that could be killed. So the number one argument for the regulation is it's a safety concern. We don't want to make it easier for people to kill people. Now, on the other side, people are going to say, but wait a minute, I think that you might be exaggerating. You're watching too many movies about mobsters and James Bond. This isn't Hollywood. This is the United States of America. And they point to a study that shows in California, at least from 1995 to 2005, over a 10-year period, that there was only 153 federal cases in California where silencers were used in crimes. Of course, the other side is going to come back and say that's because they're really hard to get. And then, of course, the people that want the regulation gone are going to point to other foreign nations like Britain, for instance, which doesn't have a problem with silencers, and they have no rules in terms of buying silencers. Of course, their guns are heavily regulated. Do you see how we go back and forth? Now, the current argument for those forces that want to deregulate their use is health concerns. That's why it's called the Hearing Protection Act, because when you're shooting a gun, there is a whole bunch of blowback and a whole bunch of noise. Decibel-wise, and I'm not a scientist, it's about 165 decibels, which is unacceptable. That's why a lot of hunters will wear earplugs, which means they can't hear their prey. They want to take the earplugs out, be able to shoot the gun, and not blow their eardrums out. This is about saving the children's hearing, and that decibel is lowered to about 135 decibels when using a silencer, which is about the equivalent to a jackhammer. So when the people that want the regulation say, hey, it produces a lot of noise, we don't want to silence that noise, they say you're not silencing the noise, you're just making it less noisy. Now, proponents of the regulation are going to point to other studies that show that when you par these silencers with ammo, like subsonic ammo, you can significantly reduce the sound level to that of a pellet gun, and that would be really dangerous if someone was killing a whole lot of people. Now, the last argument on both sides is this is common sense. Of course it's common sense. So now the time has come to ask you, internets, what do you think? Do you think that silencers should continue to be regulated? Do you think they're not regulated enough? Or do you think that they should be completely deregulated? Have that debate down in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed, now is the time to do that. It's the perfect time because it's always the free time. And make sure that you share this channel, share these videos, because it's time to grow HipHughes history, because we're on a mission to grow brains all around the globe, and we need your help. And always remember, because I say it at the end of every lecture, because I mean with all my heart, where attention goes, energy flows, and we'll see you guys next time that you press my buttons.